Hello, I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you'll continue to watch as we discuss issues facing our community and provide you with the resources and information needed to find solutions. Money is a word that stirs up many emotions. Whether we're looking to spend and save more wisely or struggling with debt, we could all use some guidance with money management. And joining us today is Brant Spesshardt, certified financial planner, SmartVestor Pro, a founding member of Dave Ramsey's Investing Council, and president of Steward Wealth Strategies. Brant, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you, Bill.
So what's Dave Ramsey really like?
Just as you hear him on the radio,
yeah,
I mean, he's a straight shooter.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and I'll tell you what, I actually took some of his advice, and I'm glad I did. For folks who are, there are really two views, I guess. A lot of people spend money, I think most of us do, and use credit card, and you develop wealth by accumulating things, but then you also accumulate debt. Dave Ramsey's perspective on this is completely different. Explain.
Right. Well, you know, just like a GPS, there's a lot of different ways to get from point A to point B. Finance is the same way. You know, a lot of different ways to assess where you're at today, reach those goals, but ultimately you've got to go with your own comfort level. And Dave's approach is, hey, how can we have peace of mind? And the biggest financial struggle that most people have that causes the most amount of stress is obviously a lot of the debt that they have. And Dave's approach is, look, the borrower's slave to the lender, break away from this debt scenario that you're stuck in. And if you look at the average American out there, the average American is in debt up to their eyeballs, living paycheck to paycheck, and has no cash emergency fund. Most of us don't want to be average in those regards. So Dave's approach is, hey, here's a plan on how to get from point A to point B. It's called his 7 baby steps. The cornerstone to the 7 baby steps, though, is to have a budget. You got to know where you're at, how much is coming in, how much is going out, but then you work these 7 steps in a particular order, because these steps are structured so that you're taking care of risk today, but the latter steps are focused on planning for the long-term future. And, you know, if we don't have an order on how to attack things, we'll put a little bit here, pay a little bit towards this, save a little bit over here. We spread ourselves really thin, and our income is our biggest wealth building tool that we have. But it's trying to get a grasp on what to do with that income that really matters. And that's where Dave's philosophy, his 7 baby steps, really make a difference for a lot of people.
I want to get into those. I should probably have asked your background as well. I mean, you're involved with Dave Ramsey, and you're one of, what, 15 in the country or so that sit on this council.
Correct.
I mean, that's very impressive. How did you get involved, and what is your background, Brant?
So I've been in finance for 20 years, been a financial planner going on 18. And a few years ago, it's probably about 10 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to a term called Automobile University. When you're in the car, try to educate yourself some. He gave me a bunch of random CDs, and one of the CDs, though, that he gave me was a CD called Dumpin' Debt by Dave Ramsey. And I put that CD in, started listening to it, and I'm a financial planner, and one of the biggest stresses I had at that time was the amount of debt that I had. Sure. And I started listening to that CD over and over again. I became a huge fan, basically talking about a simple strategy on how to get out of debt. And I started sharing that philosophy with other folks. I found Dave on a small radio station at the time and heard about his ELPs, or his financial planners that he recommended. I thought, look, I love talking about this stuff on a professional basis. I love this stuff personally. It's changing my life. Reached out to their organization, and it just happened where I ended up getting teamed up with them.
You know, it shouldn't sound like a radical way of thinking, because it really isn't. It's common sense, isn't it? I mean, his philosophy, yet most Americans are caught up into, I guess, where we want gratification right away, so we continue to build. How do you begin? What is like the first step in order to go down this path of being debt-free?
I think you almost have to say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Dave uses that phrase a lot of times on the radio, and I think we have to kind of get to this point where we don't want to be average anymore, and we want to get on the right path. And sometimes it's kind of finding that emotional hook that's going to make you make this change or transform. You know, my wife and I, we have 3 little children, and I think about our financial situation and taking care of my family is what drives me, really. And I think for a lot of folks, they just get to that point, they're tired of the stress. They hear about a philosophy that is simple and boring, because that's the thing about financial planning. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Don't make it too sophisticated. Keep it simple, keep it boring, and then start thinking about those dreams and those goals that you have, and just think, how good would it feel if I didn't have credit card payments anymore, if I didn't have a car loan or the student loan debt? How would it feel to have my house paid off someday? Because, really, retirement's not just sitting around doing nothing. It is putting yourself in a financial position so that you have the choice to do what you want to do. It may be that you continue working because you choose to, but we just have to basically assess where we're at today and say, all right, what do I need to start doing going forward? So how much money you make is key, because really we have to assess what's coming in and what's going out first. So that's really where the budget comes into play. And then you have to look at that budget and say, all right, if I really want to make a change in my finances, what am I willing to give up? Ramsey talks about beans and rice and beans. The only time you should see the inside of a restaurant is if you're working at one. These are the sacrifices we really have to keep in mind. And my wife and I, we sacrificed a lot. It was kind of uncomfortable at times, but once you get that debt paid off and that emergency fund built, it's fantastic. So step one is not paying off the debt first. It's actually, look, let's get a little bit of cash reserve on the side. And it's usually around $1,000, starter emergency fund. And then we want to take every dollar we can and tackle that short-term debt, the credit card debt, the car loans, student loans, personal loans, because our biggest wealth building tool that we have is our income, but our income gets robbed by payments. A $400 a month car payment, $60 a month going to this credit card over here, $70 going to this student loan. That is our income going towards somebody else's pocket. We've got to get that debt knocked out as quickly as possible. And Dave talks about the strategy on how to do it, and it's called the debt snowball. Line up your debts, largest to smallest, pay the bare minimum on everything, and take all your extra money and knock out that smallest debt first. And some people would say, well, why don't you want to attack the interest rates? That doesn't make any sense. Well, really, when we're trying to pay off debt and we're really trying to keep the motivation going, we got to have some victories along the way. And the sooner I get a debt paid off, it feels better.
It does.
It really
does.
Yeah.
I went because I took that advice, and it does, folks, and it's tremendous. And when you get to a point when you have no credit card debt, it's amazing. Well, there's so much more to talk about. So don't go away, because we're coming back with Brant, and we'll talk about financial self-control and building a solid financial future and a plan. So stick around for that.